Welcome to the Flat Track Factory on one of my favorite field trips to A1 Cycles with friend of the channel, Mike Beeland. Thanks for letting me come over, man.
Always.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, so we're gonna have a smart guy here to help talk about something that's come up online, Rotax clutches for a racing application. And I'm not too smart on these sort of things, but I, for some reason, know people that are. And we're going to talk about my engine builder, Jerry, maybe Davey Durrell, and Mike Beeland kind of put it all together for us. So the story with the Rotax clutch that came up on one of those online pages was, what are people doing? And it, of course, it kind of depends on, what you have. The Rotax clutch works great for 35 horsepower.
Intended use.
Intended use, but we've stretched that.
Doubled.
Yeah.
Minimum.
If you want to run at the front,
Right.
with the current bike. So there's all kinds of problems, and I will tell you my experience, and Mike has some really interesting things that kind of brought my current build to the next level that I don't think I could have talked my engine builder, and we'll get there. So the first thing that came up, Mike, is I had three Rotaxes back in my late teens, early 20s, and they were supposedly all built the same, but they all had a different feel. Do you have any comment on that? Do you think it's just me being a dumb rider, or do you think there was some differences?
Feeling the motor?
Feeling the clutch engagement,
Oh,
even though
yeah.
they all had the same pieces.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because every friction plate, every steel has a different amount of friction coefficient.
Okay, so let's pause here and talk about why I want Mike to talk about this with us. Explain some of your clutch background, because you're not a normal clutch motorcycle guy.
Well, from drag racing and top fuel racing, our clutches are critical. Our 60-foot times and the way the clutch works to get us going is very, very critical. We grind clutches flat. We have access to people that we know that actually take a clutch plate and put it on a machine and turn it and measure the coefficient of friction of every single clutch plate. Pro stock motorcycle racers measure the coefficient of friction of every single clutch plate and try to reproduce that same exact stack every time.
So perhaps that's what I was feeling.
Correct.
Okay, but I didn't know that. And because in my era of racing Rotaxes, originally as a pro, as a late teenager and early 20s, everybody rode it, so everybody was kind of dealing with the same problem. And I think later, when the modern bikes came in to being, which were much, which were much better built, the problems were exposed. So what we did then was put big springs, heavy clutch springs into it, which immediately caused the next problem, where the heavy duty clutch springs, you'd pull the clutch in and the entire cable would crush upon itself.
Yeah, the wound cable, the outside cable sheath would collapse.
And I hated that and complained and complained
Constant
and complained.
adjustment.
So what my engine builder, Jerry, finally did for me was build a cable that is virtually uncrushable. I believe it's for an outboard motor. It's like for a boat.
Right.
So it's just super, super heavy duty, and it takes that out. So that's great, except then something else starts flexing.
The cover.
the cover starts flexing. So I'm crying about that, and so we're talking about a billet clutch cover, and it's just, everything's fixable, it's just time and money. But then the next part of the story, or the next problem that came up, was where Mike finally gave me the ammo to talk to Jerry and convince him to do something crazy, was this friction thing. Is I would send the engine back twice a year. I wanted a brand new clutch in it, and he would measure the steels and tell me they're fine, and I'm like, no, just put steels in it. Because I had this experience where when it would come back on the second use of the steels, where I would get just a couple of good starts and the chatter, grabbing the lever would occur again. And he says they're fine, they measure fine, but again, what's going on there?
The microscopic face of a steel plate for a clutch is opened up like mountains and valleys. Mm-hmm. So when we use the clutch, we're basically smoothing those mountains and valleys off and reducing the ability to grab the friction material. Friction material is what goes away. Mm-hmm. We wear that down. That's the wearable item. Steel wears, but it doesn't wear much. Mm-hmm. but it will close its face and polish itself off, so it doesn't have the same coefficient of friction.
One of the terrible things about racing the Rotax with the modern bikes is if there's a restart on a big track. So you're going to be in a tall gear and try to, you know, that big, long road race style, I'll call it, engagement of the clutch.
Prevent wheeling, prevent spinning. To
Yeah,
get a
yeah,
good shot,
yeah. And just put shitloads of heat in the, oh, there goes my money. Lost my monetization. A buttload of heat into the clutch, and the bike just can't take it. So God forbid there would be a restart, and to do it again, the clutch is dead.
Right.
Now, if this was, you know, 1992, when everybody had a Rotax, we'd all kind of back off. But we don't have that problem now. We've got, you know, guys on
KTM 450s with slipper clutches.
yeah, modern stuff. So this is where the latest and last mod, and I'll put a picture in here of the funny little oil line on the bike, is Jerry took one of the transmission shafts and EDM drilled, is that the right word? He drilled a little hole through it and rerouted an auxiliary oil line, and now it's pressure oiled the clutch.
A lot of sport bikes in the early days, 80s, late 80s, early 90s, would suffer from chatter.
Like a machine gun in your hand. Bah, 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 bah.
Because of the RPM and the inability to lube the clutch. So they started drilling holes in baskets and holes in hubs to get the oil to go from the inside through the clutch plates and to the outside. It was free flowing oil, it wasn't directed, but it was a trick to drill holes in it.
From what I understand, the stock Rotax clutch has oil coming down from the top of the engine and just hits the basket, which just spins, you know, it just slings it off. So now our prototype clutch is oiled from the inside somehow, and it's kind of cool. You actually can see the difference in the return oil. There's a lot of oil going in there, and it seems to have substantially, I hate to say the word cured, but
made it better.
It's made it way better. So this is an answer to your question. What do we do to the Rotax racing clutch? And it kind of depends, you know, how big of a problem you have. You know, how much power are you making? You know, how hard are you launching? Maybe you can get away with one or two of these things. But if you want to try to win a pro race now against the modern bike, this is what's worked for me. It sounds like a lot, but it's kind of some cool tech, and I know you guys like it. So
your clutch setup for a dyno run also is going to be different than on the track. Like sometimes on a dyno, we'll get it to slip because the drum weighs 550 pounds. We're never going to experience that on a track. We're going to spin the tire instead of the drum.
Oh,
so
okay.
Sometimes it's a little different.
Oh yeah, we were having some some clutch slippage here, and I was crying because I thought it was done.
Not a problem. When you get back on the track, it's not an issue. Here it is.
I bet you it would have been a problem if we didn't have the oiled clutch.
Correct.
Cool. All right, guys. As always, thanks for watching. We're lucky to have guys like Mike here to bring their wealth of experience and answer your questions. So thanks for watching. Cheers, brother.